Hi, it's Delia here. Thanks for clicking on. Uh, Today, I just wanted to pop on and talk a little bit about expectations, particularly the expectations that how things are is not how they should be. Things should be different. Um, what's happening shouldn't be happening. The expectation that life will be fair, or that people are good, or that people are bad. Um, all these various expectations are like they're like a lens. And once you have a lens on, you're not really able to see what's actually happening because you're seeing through the lens. So if you're looking at current affairs right now and you're looking through the lens of democracy should be this way, people should be this way, um, Christians should be this way, whatever it is. And there's a lot to choose from. If you're looking at anything through a lens, you have an expectation that's getting in the way of your seeing just what is. If you can't see what is, if you can't be in the moment, if you can't be where you are, you can't do anything. You just can't. You can't drive a car from the back seat. You can't drive a car from the trunk. The only place you can drive a car from is from the driver's seat. And if you're not in the driver's seat, you're going to be disoriented, you're going to be scared, you're going to be confused because you're not in proper control. And there is a big difference between what I call control with a C and control with a K. Control with a K is that white knuckle, um, it has to be a certain way, domination kind of energy, which is on display everywhere in our culture. It is corrosive. It is not generative. It may be temporarily effective. It does great harm, but it's not actually control. It's domination. We're very sloppy with our vocabulary in America these days. So, um, just to give you a picture of how they're different, just think about we're having the Olympics, and I, like a lot of people, like to watch the ice skaters. But this is true for anybody else who's really, really practiced. They have incredible control, and it's a flow, and they know how to work with the grain. They know how to work with the energy. They know how to work with the ice, whatever their medium is. They've they've been so long engaged with it physically that their 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 bodies, the cells of their bodies, know whatever the format is. This is true whether it's playing tennis or any kind of a sport. Um, you practice so much, you can do it with your eyes closed. You're just so in tuned because you've been through every variation and version of being out of tune possible. And once you've been through all of the out of tune, you keep coming back to what the in tune is, and you get calibrated to in tune. So one of the things about expectations is that there's an energy of I want to take my ball and go home. This is not how it should be, and therefore I don't want to have anything to do with it. Um, Not wanting to have anything to do with it is a big part of how we got here. Both the right and the left at different times in the past 50, 70 years have said, I'm done. This is crazy. The two sides are the same. All these lies. There may be a little grain of truth here and there, but for the most part, there are lies that have just made people feel like I don't want to participate. I mean, as a flower child, I certainly didn't want to participate. in a society that was so mean and so loaded and biased against so many people. Um, and luckily, I had an incredible family that was very proactive, and so um, they were the kind of people who thought that faith without works is, it's not even wishful thinking; it's just useless. And so I was happily instilled with the idea that what you do matters. What you do matters. And if you think about it energetically, what you do brings things into material existence. It matters, literally, right? So the idea that how things are is not how they're supposed to be is, it makes a lot of sense from a very immediate kind of point of view, of a very human point of view. Um, People are not supposed to be being killed just for walking, just for being, that's on a human scale, that's really, really true. And from a bigger perspective, from a spiritual perspective, it's just a very different space. It's a very different, what's the word? Whatever that is, perspective. Okay. So, from a spiritual perspective, you would think about things maybe in 10,000 year increments instead of 10-day increments, or 10-year increments, or even 100-year increments. Your perspective from a higher self is very different. You as spirit have a very different point of view than the body personality. The body personality is going to live maybe, let's say, 100 years. It's a nice round number. And so everything is in the context of that limitation of 100 years. And yet, there has been life on Earth for some, I'll get the number wrong because I always get numbers wrong, but let's say 1 billion years, or 100, or 100,000 years. A really big number, much bigger than this ridiculous idea that humans have only been here for 6,000 years. There's just no way. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of other years that humans were alive on the planet. And it's a false expectation that if there's no documented record of it, it didn't exist. And the people who get the most advantage out of that are the people who win, the conquerors, right? The history, right? So it doesn't mean they're accurate. It means they're promoting their point of view. So humanity has been on the planet for, a really long time. And most of that time, we were agrarian. We were not agrarian, hunter-gatherers. We didn't own land. And that's the ownership is the pivot point. But like 90% of life on Earth was not this culture. It was not this ownership setup. It was not patriarchy. It was not the landed gentry. Most of what we are wrestling with right now is very new. Not to a body personality, because a body only lives 100 years, and this has been going on for a few thousand years. But we went for, 90%, the only number I can remember right now is 90% of the time that humans have been on the planet have not been this culture. We're not agrarians. And in a non-ownership, no, ownership didn't come into play until we started planting seeds and farming. So most of our genetic code has to do with community and cooperation and our inherent socialization needs, which is what everybody needs to get along and to thrive, is being in relationship. And with the new idea of ownership, what used to be together we're stronger became mine and yours. It became adversarial. It became competitive. And pretty much everything that's going wrong right now is from this foundational idea, which is a man-made idea, of competition. Some people are better than others. I own it, you don't. Those kinds of things. So the spiritual perspective is a much bigger perspective than the personal human perspective. And I'm just pointing out that they're very different, right? A perspective that has been through many, many, many bodies and many, many lifetimes, spanning hundreds of thousands of years, is going to have a very different perspective than somebody's 100-year period. A great way to internalize this for yourself is imagine, go ahead and close your eyes and just imagine, go pat your body, sort of be right here, right now. And now imagine if, Merlin and his magic wand turned you into a sea turtle. So just imagine swimming in the ocean, looking for the warm current, being with all your buddies, and you're swimming in the ocean. And your lifespan is 150 years. And everything that you need is around you. It's easy, it's accessible. There's not even a glimmer of an idea of lack, because all your needs are taken care of. And you live for a really long time, much longer than a human being. And just notice how your body responds to the idea that all your needs are met. There's nothing that you require that you can't access. Feel how that feels. And notice what it feels like when there's no rush. You live for 150 years. There's plenty of time to do everything. There is no competitive clock that's ticking. Notions of wasting your time or living a big life or living a small life, none of that stuff exists. And just notice how your body feels when all your needs are met and you have all the time in the world. You may notice that feels a lot different than Tuesday at 10 a.m. So the perspective of a sea turtle that lives for 150 years, the perspective of a person in a body lacking resources, having financial and food insecurity, maybe lacking adult care, and someone who has all their needs met, even before they think of it. And the lion on the savannah who knows no fear, who can lounge under the tree in the shade and purr with eyes closed. Because if anything approached, the senses will tell you. And there's nothing to fear because you have your power. These all have different points of view. They all have different perspectives. And they are all valid and true for each and every one. One of the things that makes being a human so magical is that no matter the circumstances of your life or the circumstances of the culture and the changes that keep happening, you have a higher self. Usually it's a part of you that you've never met. And that higher self has the 100,000-year perspective. It has the perspective of the accrued wisdom and experience of lots and lots of lifetimes. And in your spiritual heritage, you've been everything from the worst of the worst to the best of the best. You've been the most despicable and the most holy, and everything in between. So there is no human experience or wisdom or comprehension or understanding or power that is not in your spiritual heritage. Now, sometimes a body personality hears that and has had so many difficult and traumatic things in that body's lifetime that it can sound as though your body personality woke up one day and said, oh, I'm going to have a car wreck today and see what that's like. It's not like that. Bad things still happen to humans. And every human has access to a much bigger picture. And through that larger self, there's a tremendous amount of power and control of the healing wisdom variety. So when something in the news or in your life stumps you, you can ask, okay, I need to get bigger. So how do I get bigger? Show me a bigger perspective. And you may or may not get a picture or an image or a concept in that moment. There may be some time delay between the time you ask and the time you get a bigger picture. But you will if you ask for it and then if you look for it. From a body personality perspective, it's as though there's a whole lot of, Vulcan three-dimensional chess going on. And unless you're in the three-dimensional chess business, you don't have to go and track down everything. There's plenty of things that are happening on a day-to-day basis that you really don't even need to know about. The way the news is presented right now is pretty well trauma stimulating, kind of on purpose. And your stomach acid, you're being upset, your fretful nights sleeping. None of your suffering actually helps anything. Whereas you're protecting and nurturing What can you do? What's going on in your world? What's going on in your body? Can you be kind to strangers? Can you talk to the lady at the grocery store? The things that you can physically actively do matter a lot, a lot. I know a good many of us want to have a life, a community, a society where each of us matters, where people get along, where neighbors look out for each other, where community wants to be together. And the more we live that way, the more we find ways to live that way. I'm not saying go out and be stupid. I'm saying look for opportunities to smile, to be kind, to be living in the kind of world that you want to live in. That's powerful. And action steps are the antidote to anxiety. There's plenty of facts to be anxious about, and there's plenty of, well, pot stirrers that are wanting everybody to be upset. And you can plant the seeds of the life that you want to live in, the society that you want to live in. You have that control, you have that choice, you have that power. So I hope this is helpful. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. These are important times, and what you do with your consciousness and your body and your time and your judgments really matters. Stay tuned for more.